So if I start from the very first day, when we said that whenever we do the project, we have to answer three questions. What is the project? How much is it gonna cost? And what return of investment will come, or how much it will add into our business value. Business value is the combination of all tangible as well as intangible assets or goodwill or brand recognitions. Whenever we do projects, we have to do the pastel analysis, the risk analysis, that how we are doing with the risk, what are the risks involved politically, economically, social, technology, legal, and environmental. Then we have our organization visions whenever they change. So there is a department, person, or could be anything, can name anything, called as business analyst. They perform always the needs assessments. And in needs assessments, they always perform the current state analysis and then future state analysis, and then they do the gap. Where is the gap in between delivering the values and in between real values? Based upon that, they prepare a document called as feasibility study, which contains multiple options of doing the project. Once one of those projects is selected, we make the our business analyst make the business case, which contains the reason why we are doing the project. And based upon assumptions, we prepare a document called as benefits management plan, which contains financials, which contains the name of the benefit owner, the strategic alignment, which contains the net present value, internal rate of return, payback periods, return of investment, all these things. A part of that, high level assumptions, risks, and matrix of measurement. So based upon that, once you have these things, these are the pre-project activities. So once we have feasibility study, business case, and benefits management plan, we find a sponsor for the project or program or portfolio. Once we found a sponsor, so sponsor then find the seller. So customer, sponsor, seller makes the agreement between them. And agreements are like kind of verbal thing before making the contracts. Once these things are done, then we start the project. To start the project, we have 5 process groups, and process groups are what? Initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. And process groups are divided by objectives. And we have 10 knowledge areas, which we remember as scope, time, cost, quality, risk, resource, procurement, integration, communication, and stakeholders. And knowledge areas are divided by functionalities. So what we do, we initiate the project, and to initiate the project, we have always execute a process called as develop project charter. And to prepare the project charter, I need the inputs like feasibility study, business case, benefits management plan, agreements, and if there is a format of a project charter in OPA, and we need to check the compliances and influences in terms of enterprise environmental factor. Once these things will be input, we'll be able to produce the project charter by doing the brainstorming, the idea generation, focus group, the relevant stakeholders or experts, interviews one-to-one, or it could be the facilitation like coaching and guidance. Based upon that, we execute the process, develop project charter, and the output is what? Project charter. Once we have got the project charter contains what? High-level statement of work, high-level assumptions, high-level risks, major milestones, exit criteria from the project manager name and authority, sponsor name and authority, and initial list of stakeholders. Once the charter is issued, which means project manager has now the authority, this project charter is approved by the sponsor. So once we have the charter, after becoming the project manager, your first task as a project manager is to identify the stakeholder. Once we identify the stakeholder, we get an output called as a stakeholder register, where we list the stakeholders or potential stakeholders as many identified based upon their power interest. We can use power interest grid, or based upon the salience model where we have power, literacy, and legitimacy, or we can use the stakeholder cube to identify the stakeholders and their requirements and expectations. And this complete our initiating process group. Once we have done the high level thing and we got the approval, now we will start planning the project. The first process which you will start for planning the project is what? Plan, scope, management. But before that, we execute a bigger process, which is the main process of integration called as develop project management plan. So we will start working from the first day on a process called as develop project management plan, and after that, scope. We determined or we agreed, we made a rule that every knowledge area will start with the management plan, and management plan is what? How. So when we will execute the process plan scope management, we will get two outputs: scope management plan and requirements management plan. The scope management plan guide us that how to make the project a scope, and requirements management plan guide us how to collect the requirements, track them, manage them throughout the project. So once you have requirements management plan, based upon that, you will start collecting the requirements. You will collect the requirements by brainstorming, focus group, facilitation, questionnaire, surveys, interviews, prototype, mind map, affinity diagram, context diagram, benchmarking, and so on. You can use any of them or all of them to collect the requirements. Which requirements we collect? Business requirement, stakeholder requirement, functional requirement, non-functional requirement, quality requirement, project requirement, product requirement, transition requirement. Once we collect a lot of requirements, we have so many documents. We call them requirements documentations. So we convert requirement documentation into a document called as requirement traceability matrix. Requirement traceability matrix contains all the requirements in one page, from where we have the on the left hand side, we have the business objectives of the requirement. On the right side, we have the testing criteria or test cases of the requirement. Once we have the requirement traceability matrix, which means now I can define a scope, which is a detailed project scope statement, which contains the product scope, which contains the project scope. What is product scope? The features and functions you need in the product. What is project scope? How you will deliver the project product. Based upon that, we also mentioned two most important things. What will be the acceptance criteria and what will be the exclusion criteria? It will be mentioned in project scope statement. Once you have detailed multi-pages scope statement, then you will convert into a WBS, the more graphical way, hierarchical way. So we create WBS, which contains control accounts and work packages. And the lowest level of WBS will always be the work package. Along with work breakdown structure, we get another document called as WBS dictionary, which is quite detailed in terms of what are the activities, what will be the resource requirement, cost, etc. So we have a scope statement, we have WBS, and we have WBS dictionary. So it means we have completed the scope thing. We will send it for the approval to the customer or sponsor. They will review it and they will validate the scope that yes, that's what we wanted to do. Once your scope is approved, then you will go to start scheduling. And the first process for always every knowledge area is management plan. How to prepare the project schedule, what will be the frequency of reporting, what will be the reporting format, what will be the method. You will use critical path method, which is the longest path to finish the project in shortest duration, or critical chain method, which is like placing the buffers between the activities, or you will go with agile, adaptive, incremental, iterative, or hybrid. So whatever you have chosen, you will define in plan schedule management. Once you have set the approach, then you will start defining the activities. And to define the activities, we will have what? Scope baseline as an input. So I will get two outputs, major outputs, activity list and milestone list. If you cannot identify the activities as of now, so we will leave it as a planning package and we will collect the activities based upon progressive elaborations. Once we have activities, then we have to sequence them. To sequence them, we make a network diagram called as activity on node diagram or precedence diagram. And the method is called as precedence diagramming method, where we sequence the relationship based upon finish to start, finish to finish, and start to finish relationship, where finish to start is most commonly used and start to finish is rarely used. And we also have dependencies, mandatory dependencies, which cannot be changed, called as hard logic, discretionary dependencies, which can be soft logic, external dependencies outside the project team, internal dependencies, resource availability. So based upon the relationship and dependencies, we have sequences and we have produced the network diagram with the help of leads and lag. Lag is what? Mandatory waiting time, and lead is what? Advancing the successor activity towards predecessor to save time. Sequencing is done, then we do the estimations, and to estimate, we have analogous from past, parametric from mass, but detail for the bottom up, and uncertainties, 3-point estimations, and at the same time, we do the reserve analysis for the risk management. So we have activities, we have sequences, we have durations. Now I can develop a schedule. Then I will develop a schedule and I will find out that there are some resources over allocated. So I will perform what resource leveling. And during the project, if we feel that critical path is in the constraint, so we will take the activities from non-critical path and deploy to the critical path, that is called as smoothing. What is float? The amount of time you can delay an activity without delaying the project end date. And the free float, the amount of time you can delay an activity without delaying the start of next activity. And the formula to calculate the float is equals to late start minus early start or late finish minus early finish. Whatever you will do, answer will be the same. Once we have developed a schedule, we will show it to the sponsor. If they agreed and approved, it will become the schedule baseline. The same time, we will be having our cost management, the plan cost management, where we will find out how to calculate the cost, what will be the contingencies requirement, what will be the management reserves, how we will get the fundings, how we'll do the initial values, what will be the depreciation thing. So this will be mentioned in the cost management plan. Once we have the cost management plan strategy, then we will estimate the cost. And for estimation, we always have the same thing, analogous, parametric, bottom up, or 3-point estimations. And we also perform multi-criteria decision analysis to acquire the better resources. We issue the project funding requirements also. Once estimation are done, now we are going to make the budget. We said activities will make the work package. Above work packages, you have to add the contingency reserve for known risk, known impact, or known risk, unknown impact. So we will add the cost of control accounts. So control account includes contingencies. When I will add all control accounts, I will get the cost baseline. And when we execute the process determined budget, we don't get the budget, we get the cost baseline. In cost baseline, you have to add management reserve for unknown risk, unknown impact. So it will become the project budget. Once we have the budget, we will give it to the sponsor for approval. Once approved, then our 3 baselines are ready: scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline. We don't give the 3 baselines to the execution team, we give them the performance measurement baseline, which is the combination of all. As planning is going on, so we'll plan the quality. Quality is which fulfills the project requirement, not more, not less. We will find out the standards, what are applicable, and then we'll plan the quality. And we will start collecting the resources. For that, we'll prepare the resource management plan, which contains which type of resources we need, what will be their roles and responsibilities, what will be their training requirement, what will be the rewards and recognitions, what will be the resource calendar, and resource control. Then we'll go to estimate activity resources. So for each activity, how many resources I need, and estimation methods will remain same with the multi-criteria decision analysis additionally. So plan resources, estimate resources. So we don't acquire resources in the planning, we acquire the resources in the execution. So we will go to the next process, which is plan communication management, and output will be what? Communication management plan, which defines who needs what information, how, in which format, which technology, which frequency, what will be the reporting formats, what will be the escalation guidelines. Then we do the plan risk management, where we define the stakeholder risk appetite, that they are averse, neutral, or seekers. What is their appetite? What is their threshold? We assign the roles and responsibilities for risk owner and risk action owner. And we also define the contingencies requirement and timings for the review meetings. Once risk management plan is ready, so we will identify the risk. Once we identify the risk, we put them in a document called as risk register, which we can get it from OPA as a past project. Once we have all the risks, we will perform the qualitative risk analysis, where we classify the risk into low, medium, and high based upon their probabilities and impact. And the formula was what? EMV is equals to P multiplied by I. If required, you will perform quantitative risk analysis with the help of Monte Carlo's sensitivity analysis, decision tree, or inference diagram. Once you have done it, you will prepare the responses. For negative, we have avoid, mitigate, or transfer. For positive, we have escalate, exploit, enhance, and share. And in both cases, if you cannot do anything, accept or escalate. Acceptance are of 2 types, passive and active. With active acceptance, we are allocating the contingencies. With passive, we are dealing with the management results. So once responses are ready, for sure we will send it for the approval to get it done. And at the same time, we have our planned procurement management, where we do the two main things: procurement statement of work, make or buy decision, and source selection criteria. And plan a stakeholder engagement, which means who will be our stakeholders, how to engage them. And for them, we use a matrix called as stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, that what are their current engagements and what are their desired engagements. So we have unaware, supportive, leading, neutral, or resistant stakeholders. So we want everyone to be as a desired engagement for supportive stakeholders. These all documents, which contains 10 management plans, 3 baselines, and 33 project documents, will be the part of project management plan. It will be sent for the customer or sponsor as single thing. Once they approve it, then we will go for execution. To execute the work, we have the main process of integration called as direct and managed project work, where we will release work performance data on daily basis and will produce deliverables. And if required, we'll produce the uh, changes also. And if we have issues, so we'll put those issues in the issue log. And how you solve the issue log, we will from the first day start collecting the lesson learned with the process called as manage project knowledge. In manage project knowledge, we collect the lesson learned in the lesson learned registers. And once the project finished, we upload into OPA in the lesson learned repository. So while execution, we will have what manage quality, where we will check the process, assurances, audits, and reviews. We will have acquire resources from PMO. And once we acquire resources based upon the resource breakdown structure, then we develop the team. To develop the team, we have a Bruce Tuckman ladder model: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning, which have 5 stages. First stage is forming, when you are coming together. Storming, we have conflicts or we are not comfortable. Norming, everything is okay now. Performing, they are the performing team now. Once finished, adjourning. To develop the team, we have multiple theories, Maslow, which have 5 levels, which means physiological needs, security, social, self-esteem, and self-actualizations. Herzberg theory, which have satisfiers and dissatisfiers, extrinsic and intrinsic, hygienic and motivation factors. Or McGregor theory of X and Y, that X type of people are lower needs and a high type of people are Y type of peoples. Or McClelland achievement theory or expectancy theory. So you will motivate the team with the help of development team process. You will manage the team. To manage the team, you will have 5 powers: expert power, coercive or penalty power, or we will have the formal power, chair power, or it could be the referent power, or it could be the reward power. While managing the team, you will resolve their conflicts. We can avoid, which means you don't want to deal with it. We will smooth by some time, or you will force the thing, or you will collaborate, which is the problem solving, or compromise, both sides going back. And if nothing is working, you will go for ADR. And if ADR is not working, the last thing is court of law. So you'll be managing the conflicts and also using the emotional intelligence to manage the conflicts of the team members. Manage communications, you will send them the status report, progress reports, trend analysis reports, variance reports accordingly. And at the same time, the risk action owner will be implementing the responses. If it is not working, they will implement the contingency plans. If not working, fallback plans. And if there is a secondary risk coming, they will input into the risk register, or a new risk coming. So they will inform also the project manager so they can evaluate accordingly. If nothing is working and risk is going to be converted into issue, they have to report to the project manager. So they will be ready for it. While implementing, what you have to do, conduct procurement. For conducting the procurement, we have the agreements. We have fixed price contracts where the scope of work is available. We can use for longer durations of project. Buyer is safe and seller at risk. They all have 3 types. Firm fixed price, like kind of all together, lump sum type of thing. Incentive is to motivate the suppliers to achieve some objectives. And economic price adjustment, any changes because of government will be reimbursed or added in the contract. Or cost reimbursable contracts, the scope of work is not clearly available, can be used for longer durations of project. And primary condition is you need to have what strong financial audit to make those contracts. And time and material contract, we have where you have unit rates defined. In cost reimbursable, we have 3: cost plus fixed fee, which means like fees and your execution charges. or cost plus incentive fees to motivate the supplier, or cost plus award fees. The legitimate cost will be paid, but your performance will be based upon your fees will be based upon your performances. So that's how we make the agreement, and then we manage the agreements. And at the same time, we manage the stakeholder engagement by using our power skills, softer skills, negotiation skills, conflict management skills, leadership skills. So we can engage them in the project accordingly. So that was the execution. And while executing, what we do, we monitor it. For monitor, we have the main process called as monitor and control project work. And this is the only process in the CAPM or PMP project management framework. Instead of giving work performance information, it gives work performance report. Why? Because all controls are providing work performance information as an input to this process. So it generates a work performance report. On those basis, if the change request is produced, it has to go through the integrated change control, where project manager will analyze the change request and submit to the change control board after adding into the change log. So if it is accepted, rejected, or deferred, project manager has to inform the stakeholders. And if it is approved, they have to update the project document. So while monitoring and controlling, we will validate the scope, which means we will get the acceptance. We will control the scope to avoid gold plating or scope creep. We will control the schedule to keep it on track. And for that, we can use crashing or fast tracking. Crashing means adding the resources. Fast tracking means doing the activities in parallel. To control the cost, we can use what earned value analysis, where we had the planned value, earned value, and actual cost. And we had four formulas to perform analysis: cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, and schedule performance index. And we had two more equations, ETC and ESC for forecasting, and TCPI for the forecasting also. So you can control the cost with the help of earned value analysis. Control quality, where you will inspect the deliverable, or the quality control team will inspect the deliverable. If they verify, then you will go to validate the scope. And control quality happens always on the product. Control resources, whatever you are doing, work performance information change request. Monitor communications, same work performance information change request, that everyone is getting the right information at the right time. Monitor risk, so you may not see minor risk into major risk. Watch list might have the minor risk, they may become the major risk, or a new risk arrive, an emergent risk. Control procurement, that everyone is following the contract and following the contract, which means they have claims, so you have to close them. If the project is finished, if the project procurement or phase is finished, you have to close it. How to close it? You have to collect all the documents, and the process is called as administrative closure, where you have to collect all the documents, get the acceptance from the customer, perform supplier evaluation, make the final report of the project also, that how the things work for the procurement at least, and then submit it to the customers. And if someone is coming that I have claims, so you have to review the claims. If you feel they are legitimate claim, you have to close them. If you think they are not legitimate, you will send the supplier to the claims department and you will close the phase of procurement or project. If it is open, you cannot start the project or close the project. And at the same time, you will monitor the engagements of a stakeholder, that everyone is being engaged as they should be. If not, produce a change request and update it, which can be done after every phase or during the project. But after signing, it must be done with the help of change request. All the work is finished, we go to close the project, phase, or procurement, where we need to have the acceptance of the product. Then we need to make a transition from project to operations with the help of sponsors, close all the claims. And as a project manager, my responsibility is to collect all the documents for the project, make a final report with the lesson learned, what happened, what not happened, how can we make it better. And you have to collect the customer feedback, that the project objectives were achieved or not. If the project was terminated abnormally, you will do the post-mortem meeting, why did it happen, so you can avoid those things. And once all the work is finished, you have done the supplier evaluations, your evaluations, team evaluations, then all the thing will be uploaded to the lesson learned repository in the OP. Once all the work is done, then you can release the team, and then you can release yourself from the project. And that is the whole project management framework according to PMI from start to end, what we have done in last 3 days.